Okay, let's unpack this. If you look around, it's pretty clear the figure of the businessman has, well, ascended to almost mythical status these days.
Yeah.
We see them everywhere, right? Tailored suits, stages, podcasts, social media.
Idolized, almost.
Exactly. Presented not just as, professionals, but as heroes, gurus, sometimes even saviors.
Yeah.
And it's an image that's gone way beyond just financial success. It's become this, cultural archetype.
Our dream sold to young people.
Right. Applauded by governments, pushed by the media. It feels almost inescapable.
You're right. It's incredibly pervasive. And what's, striking is how little we tend to question it. It really makes you ask, doesn't it? What's the actual cost? Is there a hidden downside to all this glorification?
That's exactly the question we're diving into today. Our deep dive is based on a really thought-provoking article. It's called The Problem with Glorifying Businessmen as Role Models. And it offers a pretty frank and honestly a necessary critique of why this whole thing can be misleading and, maybe even dangerous.
It doesn't pull punches, does it?
No, it really doesn't. It asks us to maybe rethink exporting this idea, this kind of sacred social ideal, without looking at the harsher realities.
This stuff behind the scenes, exploitation maybe.
Yeah. So we'll be pulling out the most important insights, the key nuggets from this piece, so you walk away really understanding the argument.
Yeah.
Okay, so the article kicks off pretty directly. It argues right away that this glorification, it's tied up completely with a specific ideology of capitalist success.
Right. The one that paints entrepreneurs as these purely self-made visionary empire builders.
Strong opening statement, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and it immediately challenges that self-made idea. The article suggests that, in reality, a lot of wealth accumulation actually comes from other places.
Like what?
Like inheritance, privilege, or what the article calls financial engineering.
Which is fancy accounting, complex maneuvering.
Sort of, yeah. Clever tricks, maybe. And systems that reward speculation over actually producing something tangible. It basically says the whole started from nothing story often just ignores the invisible scaffolding behind success.
Invisible scaffolding, I like that term.
Yeah. Things like having access to capital, being part of elite networks, your socioeconomic background, and even, gender and race privileges. Things that aren't always acknowledged.
That's a really crucial distinction. Makes you think about all the factors we just gloss over sometimes. And it's here, the article argues, that things get really provocative. It suggests that when society puts businessmen up on this pedestal as the ultimate role models, we risk kind of accidentally swapping out core human values for purely financial ones.
That's a powerful challenge, isn't it? The article basically asks us to think, should we really admire, say, billionaires who lay off thousands just to increase efficiency?
Good question.
Or is, ruthless competition really something we should be teaching kids as a core value?
Right.
It really forces you to confront our societal priorities. What happens when profit becomes the absolute top metric?
And everything else.
Everything else, even people, becomes negotiable. It makes you wonder about the long-term impact of that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so from that core critique, the article then moves into, a darker side. This whole toxic hustle culture.
Oh yeah, that's everywhere now.
It describes this world where entrepreneurs are just expected to grind 18 hours a day.
Sacrifice everything.
Health, family, maybe even ethics, all for the startup.
And the article suggests this narrative actually turns burnout into some kind of badge of honor.
Which is worrying.
It is. And what's really striking here is the contrast the article draws between the curated, polished public images we see, especially on social media.
Right, the success story.
And the often much messier private reality. It points out that behind many of these admired figures, you often find, failed marriages, serious mental health struggles.
Wow.
Ventures maybe operating in legal gray areas, exploited workers, business models that aren't even sustainable.
Just held up by marketing.
Exactly. Propped up by marketing and hype, it's often a far cry from the shiny exterior.
And the article warns, this distorted image, it actually warps the minds of millions trying to copy it.
Right. People who tragically often don't have the same resources or support or those privileges we talked about.
But the story stays the same.
The narrative remains untouched, yeah. The businessman is always winning, always in control, always right.
It sets up this almost impossible standard. Okay, then the piece makes another really powerful point. It talks about a shift, like an evolution, in the businessman's role.
Oh, how so?
It argues we've kind of moved from builders to extractors.
Builders to extractors. Explain that a bit.
Well, it suggests that maybe the businessman of the past, might have actually built railways or factories.
Yeah.
Something tangible.
Okay.
But today's celebrated innovator, they might not build anything physical at all. Instead, they just extract.
Extract what?
Everything. Our attention spans, our personal data, the labor of others.
Ah, I see. That's a compelling distinction. And the article gives some concrete examples that, well, they really hit home.
Like,
companies that exploit gig workers but talk up flexibility. CEOs who somehow pay almost no taxes while constantly lecturing about economic growth.
right, we hear those stories.
Or startups that focus only on their valuation, their perceived worth, rather than being actually viable.
Sustainable businesses.
Exactly. And then they collapse, taking thousands of jobs with them.
Yeah.
So it really poses a critical question. Should the people whose actions cause this kind of damage, should they really be our top role models?
It's a fair question. And then there's the whole philanthropy facade the article gets into.
Yes, the charitable giving angle.
It argues that many wealthy business figures sort of wrap themselves in philanthropy, almost like a shield.
A shield from criticism.
Yeah, that's the idea.
The article is pretty blunt here. It suggests these big donations are often more about PR.
Image management.
Right. Or tax optimization strategies, or even ways to exert soft power influence, rather than just pure altruism. It pushes us to ask, is it really heroism? Or is it more like damage control? Like when someone builds a hospital with money they made, say, underpaying workers or polluting.
It makes you look beyond the headlines, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, so if we pull all of this together, right, what's the impact on society, this singular focus?
Oh.
The article contends that when society only promotes this businessman dream, it dangerously narrows things.
Narrows what?
The imagination, the aspirations of young people.
Okay.
Like, not everyone should be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone needs to chase these unicorns, these billion-dollar valuations.
Of course not.
Yet today, the businessman is often framed as, like, the only dream really worth pursuing.
It really makes you stop and think, where are the others?
Exactly.
Where are the teachers? The scientists, nurses, community organizers, researchers, artists? Where are they in our big lists of role models?
Good point.
The article suggests this pervasive businessman myth has kind of unfairly stolen the spotlight.
So it argues this myth has basically replaced a rich diversity of dreams with just a single, often fragile, and for many people, ultimately unsustainable aspiration.
Yeah.
But importantly, the article doesn't just criticize. It does offer a path forward.
Okay, go.
Starting with the idea of fundamentally redefining what we even mean by success.
And that's what makes it quite powerful, I think. It proposes that maybe true success shouldn't be measured by what we own or accumulate,
But
by what we genuinely contribute to society. It suggests we should admire and, elevate people who solve problems, who heal, who educate, who protect.
Can you give some examples from the piece?
Sure. It mentions like the engineer building clean energy systems, the farmer using sustainable techniques, the researcher inventing affordable medicine, or the artist who challenges how we think.
Right, those contributions.
If you look at the bigger picture here, it's about recentering our values, prioritizing, say, integrity over just income, purpose over pure profit, community well-being over just relentless competition. Aspiration, the article suggests, should be expansive, diverse, not just boiled down to a net worth figure or the size of your last funding round. So this deep dive, it's really shown us how this glorified image of the businessman, at least according to this article, isn't just misleading.
But potentially harmful.
Potentially harmful, yeah. It argues it lines us to deeper truths, can reinforce inequality, and ultimately limits what young people think is worth striving for. And the article is careful to say, this isn't an attack on entrepreneurship itself, not at all.
Right, it's about the specific version we promote.
Exactly. It's an attack on the almost sacred status given to this narrow, often deceptive version of it.
There's a quote at the end from Momin Ghazawani, the founder, CEO of Settler.
Oh, yeah.
It says, "Let's stop exporting the businessman as a sacred social dream and start rebuilding our dreams with diversity, ethics, and truth."
Wow, that sums it up pretty well.
It really does. This deep dive really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? What values do you think society should truly elevate in its role models, beyond just financial success?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It definitely is. It's certainly a question worth mulling over.